Okay, good afternoon. We're here with Bernie Chodosh.
Yes.
That is how you pronounce your name, isn't it?
Chodosh.
Chodosh.
It's a bit like going to the chemist or chemist. Silent H. Call me what you like.
Oh, fantastic. I'm sure many have. So, yes, you've been around the sort of hot rod racing scene and whatnot
Yeah, long
around
time.
this part of the world. When you
Yeah.
just told me you're an East End boy.
Yeah, so basically I was born in Baker's Arms, which is within the sounds of the Bow Bell. So I'm a sort of Cockney, if you like,
Right.
and spent quite a few years, and then we moved to North London, and as you do, and yeah, that was that. But my hot rodding side
Yeah.
started in about '64.
64. There can't have been much of a hot rod scene in
Well, the
64, eh?
funny was it wasn't, but I worked in a menswear shop on Saturdays,
Yeah.
and I used to 3 doors down the road was a news agent,
Right.
and you know the way you flick through magazines. Some people flick through women's magazines, which I did,
Right.
but I also flicked through men's car magazines.
Yes. A
And
broad spread of interest.
in those days it was Hot Car, I think was one of the British ones, and obviously the Exchange and Mark. But
Yeah.
I also found Hot Rod magazine, and
Right.
they were 2 and 6. I can remember, and I don't have them anymore because my mother, bless her, threw them all out.
Oh,
But I've actually managed to buy back pretty much every one that I ever had. And I was looking at these and I'm going, oh my God, this is unbelievable, you know. And then I found there was an English magazine, black and white. I think it was called Drag Racing News.
right.
Um, that was around about '64, and I can't remember when Blackbush came about, but I
It
went
was
there.
around then,
It was
wasn't it?
around
Yeah,
there. I
yeah.
went to Blackbush, and that was it. And then in '66, when I was 13, my parents took me and my sister to California for a holiday,
Nice.
which I realise now, or a long time ago, my parents were really quite well off in those days because nobody
I was,
travelled there.
I was going to say, popping over to California
Yeah, it
for
was.
your holes
Yeah, it
wasn't
wasn't
something
easy.
that
It
happened
wasn't
back then.
easy. The reason we went was because my uncle, who was my father's he was not related, best mate. He's done very well in California, so we went to
Right.
see him, and he actually sponsored a drag racer. So when we went out there, he said, "Would you and Bernie like to go watch a bit of drag racing? Because I sponsor it." I go, "Crikey, yeah, I'll be in
Yes.
for that." I don't know where we went, Riverside, Pomona. I honestly can't remember because I was 13 at the time. But what I do remember was the noise, the tyres, the cars, and there were no fiberglass cars then, apart from the odd Kellison and
Yeah.
and Cheetah and stuff like that. But you very rarely saw them. But I was just that was it. That was it. That was the drug for me. That was the start of the end. We haven't quite finished yet, but it was fascinating. It was in the days of over in America, and I can't really remember too much apart from the dragsters and seeing cars with cut out wheel wells with
Yeah,
big
yeah.
tires. Um, and then I came back, and then I bought when I was 13. This was probably in July of '66. I found out about Santa Pod.
Yes, which would have
Right.
been still fresh news then,
Oh,
wouldn't
it
it?
was fantastic. Anyway, so of course, being at 13, I can't drive there. But I worked out where it was, and I worked out that from Finchley to North Finchley was about half an hour bicycle ride. And then me and my pals used to cycle up to Tally Ho, 30-minute, whatever it was, take the wheels off the bikes, put them in the back of the coach, and we go to Bedford. We
Right.
get out of Bedford, assemble it all back up, and then drive to Rushden, which
Yeah.
is where Santa Pod is.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, in those days, you had drag racers like Commuter,
Yeah. Yeah.
Tudor Rose. Um, you had Alf Agan in his motorbike, drag racing bike. Dennis Storm and Norman in a twin-engined Norton or something. Invader, a Gold
Yeah, yeah.
Viva. There was a mini pickup truck with a small block Chevy sitting in the back,
Yeah.
and there was an Opus tea bucket with a big thing on a clock, a big key in the back. But what I do remember, the weather was always fantastic. I mean, I went to 3 meetings
Yeah.
there for that year, 66, and 67 we went up quite a few times as well. The weather was always fantastic.
Right.
There was never any rain. And you'd go up there and you'd see the American Air Force Base.
Of course. Yeah.
They used to come along with their 55 Chevys. And of course, they were a little bit more advanced. Most people built Ford Pops here
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
put straight 6 engines in because they were
Jaguar
easy to get,
engines, yeah,
Jaguar
yeah.
engines. And then obviously you had Prudhoe and all the rest of them. But it was just, it was a drug. And I made the decision there that when I could, I was going to build a hot rod because there was no point building a drag racer because I couldn't get it there. And my father hated cars.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he liked antique furniture. And God knows where this all came from.
Because most people you meet say, "Oh, got it off me dad."
No,
But,
well, my
yeah.
sons do.
Yeah, yeah.
My grandsons do as well. But no. Anyway, so I said to my dad, I want to build a hot rod. Okay. So exchanging mail every Thursday. I found an Austin 7 on a
Yeah.
farm not too far away, £10. So my dad at least came with me. We bought the car. My mum towed it home with my dad. I mean, that's what nobody said anything then.
Yeah.
You put a bit of bungee cord and just towed wherever you were, motorways. It didn't matter. It was great times. Anyway, I'm very good at stripping cars down. And I was fantastic. I stripped this car down in 2 days.
Yeah.
And that was it.
It's the bit that follows that's normally the
Couldn't do
difficult
it.
part. Right.
Couldn't do it. Never had a father who would tell me what to do. So we got rid of it quite quickly because obviously I didn't have tools or anything. But the one thing my father always used to say to me, he said, I'm bloody sure that it had a 2-letter, 2-number registration.
Wow.
Which would have been worth some money,
Yeah.
but we just gave it away. And it wasn't until I was then I started karting when I was 15.
Right. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
father hated that as well. So I got some money together. I bought a proper go-kart, an international one, about 80 quid or something.
80 quid.
Yeah.
Grief.
Well, that was a lot of money.
I know, just now, I don't think 80 quid would get you a good morning from the...
A bit of petrol.
Yeah.
But I've always liked buying and selling.
Yeah.
So my mother, well, this time we lived in Hampstead and was quite well to do. My mother used to make me smoked salmon and cucumber sandwiches.
Nice.
And I'd take them to school and I'd part exchange them for cash and cheese and pickle sandwiches. I just love it. You know, I'm well known for buying and selling.
That's enterprising, isn't it?
I just love the whole deal. Anyway, after that, so I started to karting at Rye House. And I had
Where's Rye House?
Hoddesdon.
Oh, right.
Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough, I had a friend of mine who was a bit older than me, and he had a van, and he said, well, we'll go together. It was good fun.
Yeah.
And then I was 17, and I started to go to the Chelsea cruise.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough, when I was 17 and a half, I bought a Ford Cortina, just a normal car.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2-liter or 1.6 or 2-liter. But in those days, you could do whatever you like. Nobody did anything.
Yeah.
So I bought the first set of Wolf Race wheels that used to be in Staples Corner, not far away.
Right.
Had them drill it out to the 4-stud Ford bolt pattern. They were 15. Put that in, jacked the car up.
Yeah.
Bought some thrush side pipes. Put those on. I put on a Pro Stock bonnet on the front.
Yeah.
Which was huge. And I don't know if they called it Pro. It looked a bit like a 2-lane blacktop, the 55 Chevy.
Yeah.
Just a made up piece of crap, but it looked brilliant. And a friend of mine was in the fur business. So I bought from him I think they were about £3 each. Sheepskin rugs,
Yeah.
bright purple,
Wow.
which I put in the thing in the car on the
Yeah.
seats. Floor, seats, everything. I couldn't get them on the roof, otherwise I would have done. God knows what it looked like. But anyway, so I go down the Chelsea cruise and I get behind what I now know or knew then was Hot and Bothered.
No, right.
And I'm looking at this car and I'm going, oh my God. And to me, John Baldacchino was way ahead of his time with Nick Butler and a few others. And I decided, right, that's what I'm going to do. So every Fordson van I was 17 then,
Yeah.
every Fordson van I went to see was either rubbish, couldn't find it because they're out in the middle of nowhere or whatever, no sat nav. And I'm driving through Finchley one day and I see a Fordson E83W Woody
Wow.
with a for sale sign. I thought, blimey, that's all right. So I gave him £200 for that. And over the next year, I redid the wood on the outside. I put parquet flooring in the back.
Nice.
I stuffed a V6 engine in it,
Yeah.
Viva front end, fully chrome Joe back axle. I was spending every penny that I could earn, everything on this car because I realised this is what I wanted to do. But you could go to the local scrapyard. You could buy a Jag back axle for £30, Viva front end for £10. Nobody wanted this stuff. It was redundant. And that was it, really. That started me off. It was a horrendous car to go anywhere because it overheated, it did this, and I had no knowledge.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. You know, I didn't think of putting 2 radiators in the front. So I never went anywhere. I went to Nebworth, 20 miles, that was it. Because I knew I was going to blow up or something.
Yeah.
It was good fun. And after that, I swapped it for a Ford V8 Pilot.
Right.
From a guy in Chigwell, and on the way to Chigwell, the oil light came on the Fordson, so I disconnected it, as you did back then,
Yeah.
because nobody sued anybody. So I dropped the car off. Everybody's happy. We did a straight swap, and then on the way back, I started having problems with the Pilot, and then discovered that he disconnected the oil light as well. So we both sort of screwed each other, if you like. But anyway, rebuilt the Rover engine. Which
Karmic balance right there.
yeah, it's karma, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all good. And you made friends very easily in those days, and it was a great atmosphere when you went to rod runs.
Yeah.
And most people's cars were home built.
Yeah.
There was no homegrown hot rods. There were no shops. There was somebody, I forget his name, Paul, somebody, I can't remember, in Bournemouth. And there was the guy in Heathrow who started to do 32 3-window bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only steel cars about at that time, I think, was the 32 3-window, I forget his name now. He had a green grocery business in Hayes somewhere.
Right.
Wally Barter. That was
Right.
it. Wally
Okay.
Barter. And from there, I built the 32 3-window.
Yeah.
I was earning pretty good money and decided to go down the flathead, side valve, Halliburton route. I built the car, and there was a very small garage at the side of my house.
Yeah.
And everyone thought I was mad. All my friends. I mean, a lot of them are very boring in as much that they don't do anything. I've always done this. It's in the blood, isn't it? You can't get rid of it. And we moved on and on and on. And then I bought a Steel Model A 2-door sedan. And then Simon Lane, who's a very good friend of mine, we started bringing in hot rod bodies. Well, bodies from the States, all Fords.
I take it this wasn't a common practice back then.
No, it wasn't. We were the only people doing it, really.
Yeah.
So we bought in a number of 44 coupes,
Wow.
35 Phaetons, 34 3-window coupes, 32 5-window, 3-window. Never did a roadster. Quite a few bits and pieces, Model A's. and we used to put them in a container, bring them over, and we'd sell every single one prior to them arriving because we used
Wow.
to take Polaroid pictures.
It's polarized.
But we used to buy them from Nebraska,
Yeah.
which is if you were to put a dart, throw a dart to the American thing and hit it right in the middle, that's Nebraska, more or less. The stuff wasn't expensive. You could buy a really nice Model A body over there for $500.
I mean, when was this?
Mid 80s, I would
Right.
say.
Okay. Yeah.
And we did it. And then one day we're at Billing. This was the time, I think it was Chris Boyle. Was it Chris Boyle? Was making Model A coupe bodies.
Yeah.
And he was next to us at Billing. And we had this really nice Model A coupe body with a rumble seat, old hot rod, light blue, windscreen, real nice body, rust free. I think we were asking 1,700 quid for it. It needed paint, don't get me wrong, but it was there. It was totally original. And this guy comes along and he looks at it and he's looking at it. And then he'd been looking at one of the fiberglass bodies and he said, why would I want to buy that piece of shit? Excuse the expression. Why would I want to buy that piece of shit and spend all that money when I can buy a beautiful fiberglass body for the same money? And at that point, I turned to Simon and I go, that's it, we're done. We're not bringing any more cars in. We didn't.
Bloody hell.
Couldn't understand it.
I think you must have found the only person in the UK who would have said it that way around.
Yeah, but it was weird in those days because my first street rod that I bought was a black two-door sedan, 1930, 289 C4, 9-inch Ford X, nice older car.
Yeah.
And I paid $8,000 for it. And at that time, it was $2.45 to the pound. So it actually didn't owe me that much money.
$2.45 to the pound.
$2.45 to the pound.
Nice.
And roll on, roll off was probably about 300-400 quid. And I brought it over, and I remember it was on the same boat that Pete Fowler's Model A, supercharged Model A, was on. And it was on the same boat that a Willys Gasser came over from the States. So, which then raced and then rolled at Blackbush. We saw it roll at Blackbush as well. The Willys coupe, that is.
Yeah.
But it was totally different. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, you could buy engines for $150, which, okay, was a fair amount of money, I suppose, in those days. It's pro rata to what you earn. But I remember going to a car show and a guy saying to me, it's all right for you, you're loaded, you got this, you've got a Model A coupe. And I'd say to him, well, how much does your Ford Pop cost you to build? And he goes, well, 4.5, 5 grand. I said, well, that cost me less than 3,500 here. I said, the only difference is I saved up my money, went out and bought something.
Yeah.
And you've spent 3 to 4 years, which is great, which is what you have to do to build a car. And it was just what you did in those days. But I never, ever downgraded somebody's effort in what they were doing. Because it's a bit like, well, he's doing what he wants to do, but most of his friends are doing nothing. They're going to the pub. They're doing this, or they're birding it all the time, or whatever they're doing. So you've got to have respect for people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And nowadays, I have a lot of respect for younger people who, right, they may not be into hot rods. I think the majority of guys in hot rods are now either very old with grey hair, or their 40s building low-key rat rod type things, which is great. Love them to bits. But you've got to appreciate that. Without this generation doing it, we're dying. It's going to die. We're dying. I'm going to die. I'm 70 in a few months' time. We're just not going to be here. As I said before, John Baldacchino's passed away, and it's sad, but that's how life is. So we need a new generation coming along. The unfortunate thing is that everything is very expensive, and you know your priorities are family, house. That's what they should be.
Yeah.
I bought my first house. It was 16 grand. That same house now is 750 grand or whatever
Yeah.
it is. It's ridiculous,
It's bonkers.
but it is what it is.
And it's like you said earlier, you could get away with a lot back then.
Oh yeah,
when
I mean,
it came to car building.
oh yeah, you know,
No.
you could. Yeah, I remember when I built my 32, which is probably what I'm fairly well known for back then. The bodies, I bought the first body from Tony Theron. Yeah, was it Tony Theron in Heathrow?
Right.
He took a mould off Wally Barter's chopped 32. I'm not sure whether I don't think it belonged to Jeff Beck. No, I think he bought it in from the States or something like that. I can't remember. And he had sold it to a guy who I think owned Pinball Wizard at the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yellow Pop. And I got a phone call from Tony saying, listen, he's just worked out that he lives in a small semi-detached house next to another one with a drive to 2 garages at the back, which is quite normal. And he's worked out by the time he builds the car, he can't drive it down the gap because of the drains and everything. So actually, I bought the first Tony Theron 32 3 in the body for 500 quid, second hand. I went and picked it up from the guy, you know, it was brilliant. But, you know, I had a laugh. It was great. It was good fun.
Yeah.
Nobody ever really bothered you. Nobody knew what they were. So I spent about a couple of years building it. I had a very good friend of mine, Wayne Saunders in Birmingham. He painted it, who 20 years ago was now top painter in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, in those, it was easy. It's a lot easier now. Don't get me wrong. You can buy everything in a catalogue.
I suppose so. Yeah. Yeah.
On eBay, absolutely everything.
I suppose the internet has made parts hunting a lot easier.
Well, it has. I mean, I've still got some very rare stuff, but I can't find anybody in England to buy it.
Right.
I've got very rare manifolds, Stromberg carburetted manifolds. Nobody wants the stuff. So I send it in America.
Wow.
I just sold a Scintilla Vertex Magneto with an angle drive that my friend Simon Lane couldn't sell. So I said, I'll sell it for you. And I sold it, made a few quid. Everybody's happy.
What, do you sell it back to the States or here?
Well, they were made here.
Right.
Scintilla, I think, was in Cricklewood. And they used to make the magnetos and the angle drives. Not a lot of people know that. You can look it up. Yeah, well, you can look it up. You'll find out. They never actually had them in America, to my knowledge. But my son put it on some website. The guy with an Allard said, oh my God, I've got to own it. He paid the money. We all earn a bit of money out of it. Everybody's happy. So there's still people out there. I've owned Arden heads, my own set. Simon's had a few sets. He's got his Model A with a Arden engine on it, pair of cylinder heads. I've sold very rare stuff to a guy called Don Orozco via Bill Smith of Speedway Motors, no longer with us. And they're reproducing quite a lot of stuff now, which is great.
Yeah.
Got to keep it going.
Absolutely.
Help anybody.
But I mean, like you said, now you can basically build your hot rod from one catalogue of parts.
Well, don't get me wrong. If you look at early Speedway catalogues, back then, in the 80s, you could buy a complete tea bucket from him. Body, chassis, buy everything. He was one of the pioneers of producing that type of. He was the first person to do sort of catalogue type business.
Right. Okay.
In Lincoln, Nebraska, very successful guy. He did sponsor a lot of outlaw racing, which is big wing stock cars, and sprint cars and stuff like that. And of course, then you get other people. Elderbrock, been going for a long time. You had lots of people in those days, but you could still buy. I've had Scott Italiamancia superchargers. You can still buy them. You just had to know where to get them. Now you can still you know people who have got them, but they don't want to sell them to their dying day.
I know. Right. Is it a pension fund? One of these?
no, I'll tell you what it is. It's like I know somebody who's got a Allard quick change back axle.
Right.
Needs machining and everything. He doesn't really want to sell it because he knows he'll never get another one.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
ownership thing, especially on rare parts.
I suppose so. Yeah. Wow.
But thank God for the NSRA and their swap meets and everything. I love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh boy. So I was going to say the North Weald swap meet. I saw you there this year with your
Yeah.
latest Corvette. Because I say latest because at what point did you start sort of segueing into
Corvette.
circuit racing?
It's a very interesting story. I was always into Corvettes.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who was into Porsches or whatever it was, this is back in the probably early 80s, he said there's a Corvette racing at Silverstone
Right.
in historic racing, which I knew nothing about. Let's go and have a look. So we went there, and there's a guy called Hal Danby in a 69 big block Corvette. And I go, oh my God.
That name rings a bell.
Yeah.
Carry on. Sorry.
He's passed away as well, unfortunately.
Mm.
I think he had cancer, but anyway.
Oh.
And that was it. There was him. There was a guy, Chris Pring in a Camaro. They were Datsun 240Zs, and that. It was the HSCC racing. And that was it. I was smitten.
Yeah.
So I was then buying and selling cars, or buying cars from America at that point anyway, along with Dream Cars, Luxury and Power. Right, yeah, a few of those. Real Steel actually bought and sold a few cars.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe it was a bit before, but anyway, the hunt was on to buy an early Corvette, C1.
Right.
Everyone I bought and brought back to England, I thought that's too good to race. So it took me 2 years to find a piece of old crap to race. And I found it in Billericay in Essex.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it was an old drag racer. I think I gave £4,000 for it. Nice body. Sold off the big block engine. Sold off the Hemi gearbox that came with it.
Wow.
Sold off the Dana back axle. And ended up with a car that probably owed me 1,200 quid. And then spent more money on it and started to race it.
Wow.
And everybody thought I was effing mad. Drum brakes didn't stop, plenty of go.
Yeah.
I could go from the back of the grid to the front of the grid, but then I couldn't turn. I was going too fast, so I'd go straight on.
Couldn't make the first
And that was it, really. I mean, I've never, ever gone away from hot rods and street rods.
Yeah.
And drag racing, but regrettably, the circuit racing has taken up an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money.
I should imagine so, yeah.
Yeah. But it was good. It is good fun. It was good fun. Maybe the glory days have gone a bit.
Right.
Maybe it was like nobody ever turned up with a big Winnebago, and nobody ever turned up with a Brian James 4-wheel tilt bed trailer.
Yeah.
You know, you either drove to the circuit or you got an old caravan trailer and hoped you never got a puncture while you were driving. That was great fun. I've no regrets. I'm still doing it, but just more circuit racing.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we reproduce 58 to 60 Corvette bodies.
Yeah. Oh, what, the whole shell?
The whole thing, floor pan, the whole thing. Okay. In fact, I had one at Northfield last year.
Yeah.
It's a 59, and lots of people were looking at it. We did have one guy who was definitely going to do it, and he was talking about making an electric car, and then at that point I sort of walked away. Not for me. But we've sold quite a few 63 split window coupes.
Of course, yeah.
And 65 coupe bodies as well, because the FIA racers, knobs I call them, they got plenty of money, so they buy them and build them, and they're very light.
Right.
So, and we're not concentrating on it. We make a little bit of money out of it through the company called the Corvette Factory. Not a great deal, it just helps.
So when did that sort of start up, the Corvette Factory?
A couple of years ago.
Oh, right. So that recently?
COVID, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and I had paid to have the moulds made 18 years ago through a guy called Dale in Oxford, who used to do moulding of lots of drag races. But he was a nice enough guy, but you could never get it done. It's like, yeah, I'll get round to it. Yeah, I'll get
Right.
round to it. Well, after 15 years, I decided enough was enough, so I just took the whole lot away
Yeah.
and used a company called Pro Laminates. Do you know
Oh,
Mark
yeah,
and
yeah,
Nick?
yeah. Again,
They're the biggest hot rod
yeah.
company. Real nice guys, do a fabulous job. And that's it. We sell a few now and again, not many, but it's like everything else. You can have the intention of building a hot rod. So you go out and buy a drag. You go out and buy a chassis,
Yeah.
and then you buy the body, and then you got to save up your money to buy a bit at a time, and that's why it takes years.
Yeah.
But then you've got the other person who's got a business and thinks, well, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it?
Quite. Yeah, yeah.
So, but the key is with kit cars, if you like, which is what you want to call them. I would say 75% of people that start off never finish a car.
I suspect you're probably right.
Yeah.
How many unfinished projects get passed around?
Well, they eventually get passed around. It's a man thing, you know. It's a garage. It's a man's garage thing.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of I've got a gleaming car sitting in my thing. This is going to be what I've always wanted. But you've got to be really determined to finish a car.
Definitely.
Not easy. And have a little bit of talent along the way.
Oh, that never hurts.
No, and the other thing I've noticed, I've spoken to loads of people. So I'm building myself a Kellison at the moment, which I've been building for 8 years. And I knew right from the go how I wanted it to be done. But it is taking a long time because my money and effort is going in to keep 2 or 3 other race cars going. And you can't just do it all in one go. So,
There's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, because you say you've been doing your circuit racing, and now you're boys, not boys anymore.
No, one's 45, one's 37. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've been doing it as well for a few years. Haven't they?
Well, when I first started, I would go to a meeting, a track. I'd sleep in the van. The 2 boys with their friends would sleep in tents. When they were 5, 7, 9, whatever they were. I'd get up in the morning. We'd have a good old fry up. You know, it didn't matter what the conditions were. It was a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And I've followed in my footsteps.
Brilliant.
My son Adam is building currently. He's just finished his Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
He's got a 69 big block Corvette, which will be finished in February.
Yeah.
He's also got a 56 Corvette, which will be finished when it gets finished, maybe in the summer.
Wow.
And he's a good driver. And my other son, Simeon, who's older, has got a business that he does okay at. And we're building him a 63 split window coupe, his all-time favourite.
Nice.
That will be done for next year.
And these are your own products, the 63 split window?
Well, the 63 is a lightweight body.
Yeah.
What we do is we put the midyear from 63 to 67. The chassis from 63 to 67 is almost identical to a 68 to 82 chassis.
Right. Okay.
The only difference is really at the bumper brace bar at the back is different. Yeah. That's about it. They're basically exactly the same shape, slightly better because during the 63 to 67 period, the racers realised cars flexed.
Yeah.
So from late 68, I think they put in strengthening bars.
Right, okay.
So we supply the whole thing. So if somebody wants to buy one, we supply the perspex, we supply the trim, the dash, we make the whole thing.
And is this aimed at circuit racing, like historic circuit racing?
Well, it's based at anybody. I mean, let's say you wanted to build a Corvette and put an LS3 in it with a Tremec 5-speed. You want to put...
lovely.
Yeah. Well, if you go out and buy the car, you cannot buy a half-decent coupe anymore under 50,000. and a 63 will cost you over 100,000.
Yeah.
So we sell them for 10 grand ish, and we do everything. We sell the hinges, the lightweight hinges. We sell the steel bird cage.
Wow.
Yeah, we do. We do quite a lot. We don't sell an awful lot. I always thought the market would have been in America.
Yeah.
But it's the shipping that kills it.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And,
But there's still plenty of guys out there who've got they want to do it. It's just pressing that button, isn't it? It's just going, I'm going to do it. That's it.
You said earlier, if not now, then when?
Well, you're a long time dead, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my father's generation always said, well, when I'm 65, I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to go fishing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this and do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people retire at 65 now and then die because they've got nothing to do.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know what it is.
It seize up.
They seize up, yeah. I've got a couple of friends, or a friend, he retired and he's got everything, but doesn't do much, and it's such a shame.
Crazy. Whereas you'll never be short of something to do, will you?
Oh, well, I mean, this morning,
Yeah.
I couldn't get my van going, so I've had to change the battery. The diesel's frozen up, so I've lifted it. And hopefully the sun will. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
Always.
And then build race cars in your spare time.
Yeah, I've got the 58 Corvette is inherited by one son.
Yeah.
The 59 Corvette is inherited by another son, and the Kennison that I'm building, which will be a full-blown race car with 6 Strombergs on it, proper period-looking thing, is for my daughter. But she's not getting it till I die. I've got to finish it first. And got a lot of good friends. Simon Lane's a good friend, Ray Barrow and Clive Prue, Stromberg.
Right.
We all sort of help each other out, and yeah, it's good. See Tony Thacker occasionally when he comes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good old mate.
Thacker with Custom Car back in the day, wasn't
he? He was editor of Custom Car.
Yeah. He
moved to California because obviously the streets are paved with gold over there.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, we keep in touch once a year, twice a year. But we're a generation that, thank goodness, there's more and more people coming along, and I hope that it will continue, that we don't get engulfed in all this electric stuff too much, and they don't start putting taxes or permits on. Well, it could happen.
It certainly could, quite easily.
Where I live, I'm on the edge of the M25.
Yeah.
And old Genghis Khan is trying to bring out the ULEZ or whatever it is all the way to here. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who've got ordinary cars, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years old. And they're quite happy with them.
Yep.
And he'll put the scrappage scheme in. You still got to go and spend 35 grand on another car, haven't you?
There's another car you don't want and create 2 tons of waste while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me started on that joke.
Yeah.
But you aren't far from that low emission zone market, isn't it?
Quarter of a mile.
Really.
And I don't think the classic car market or field will stop. It's just that as every generation, as the 70-year-old generation retire, can't drive or go away, you've got the next generation coming along who are into the Ford Sierras, the Japanese cars, the Datsun 240Z. No, maybe the newer turbo cars at 2025, and they're bringing that along. But it's like in America, I remember going to Hershey many, many years ago, 40 years ago, and it was all Model T, Model A stuff, because that generation was still alive.
Yeah.
Now, and they made millions of them anyway.
Yeah.
You very rarely see, and let's face it, if you've got a car that does 40 miles an hour, well, you can't even drive it on a B road without getting honked, can you? Yeah. So I'm hoping that it'll continue for a long, long time.
I should think it would. I think there's enough people who still care.
Yeah, it's a very niche part of the car scene. But actually, if you were to put them, if you were to make a registry of all hot rods, there's a guy does 32 Fords. I forget his name now, but a real nice guy. And he's got quite a long register, and if you go on the internet, he's posting the pictures from many, many years ago, and you think, where the bloody hell are those cars? They couldn't have all. They must be around somewhere.
That's another question. Occasionally, a car will just pop out the woodwork that nobody's seen in 40 years. And you think, where do they all go?
Well,
one or two might get written off or exported.
I could.
Where are the rest?
Well, I could. We could drive for half an hour into London, and there's a 32 three-window coupe, steel wheels, white walled, lovely looking car, sitting in the road in a road, not on a yellow line road, and it's not moved for 20 years that we know of.
Hell.
And the guy just will not part with it.
Wow.
Because it'll be like wrenching his heart out. And it's actually become probably a landmark in London for people to go and say, well, there's an old car over there. But there's loads of them about. You just look at that programme on TV, Shed and Buried, which I love it because I think Henry Cole's great. You've got people there. They've got barns and barns full of old stuff that never sees the light of day. Do you know Tom Cotter in America? The barn find hunter.
Oh, I know of him.
Yeah. I did a program with him in England the other year, and he said to me, I really want to come over and spend a week doing barn finds. I said, well, there aren't that many because nobody knows about them, because it's very secretive. I said, I do know where there's an Allard in a front garden in West Hampstead. I said, my sister has a Morris 1000 with a midget engine that I put in with Dave Haskell. There's another named Dave.
Yeah.
He's still doing it. He's late 60s. He's now building for somebody a Lincoln V12 in a 32. He stretched the frame.
Oh, nice.
I think this will be his last car that he'll build.
How do you top that anyway?
Put two engines. I've always wanted to build I've still got a wish list of cars. I would still love a car to build, an old sleeper, but I really would love to do a rear engine car that pops the wheels up.
Right, okay.
On demand, without too much horsepower. I've always wanted to do that, and then always loved, and I was privileged to see Tommy Ivo's car, his four-wheeled station wagon. I mean, it wasn't that quick. I think it went down in 10s or something. All four wheels, all smoking like crazy. I mean, they were showmen in those days.
Oh, yeah, but wheelie trucks and your four-wheel. That was two Tornado engines or something, wasn't it?
Well, the Tornado was not a lot of people know this, was a front-wheel drive 70s, mid to late 70s car.
Yeah.
And I actually had the chance of buying 65.6 Corvette Roadster with a Tornado engine in the back in New York.
Right.
Unfinished. It was about $2,000.
Bloody hell.
What am I going to do with that? But you can't buy everything. You can't own everything.
Oh, well, that's
you can try.
Have everything, but you can never have too many projects, just not enough room.
Yeah, room is always a problem for most people. I mean, let's face it, it's all very well saying I'm going to go and buy an electric car, but if you live in a flat or you live in a terrace row, how are you going to charge it? I do, sorry. Yeah.
So you've still got your wish list. That's
I'd like I've got 6 grandkids. I'd love a 35 three-window coupe. Always wanted one, lead slab type, lowered slats. Didn't have to have a Chevy in. It wouldn't bother me at all. Flathead stuff like that. I like that. I've always wanted a Gasser.
Yeah.
Always wanted a Willys coupe. Come very close to buying one, but no. the regrettable thing is that they are pieces of art, most of them. They, nice cars. When you look at it, just a little silly little bracket that's somebody's made at home, and has spent hours and hours and hours doing it. You've got to commend the guy. He's done a great job. And there used to be this thing that if you owned an American car, for instance, if you owned a 4-door, it was a parts car.
It was
That's
the
all
poor
for
relation, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah,
poor relation. Now you got Chevys, 4 doors fetching 20,000.
yeah.
Because you've got to want something, and I've never bothered about what other people think about what I've done. I couldn't care less. If they said to me, "Why have you done this and why I've done that?" I said, "Because I can."
Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't like it. Doesn't bother me as long as you're not insulting about it too much. But no, I'll still go until probably till I can't do it anymore.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And quite right too, because 2023 is a big year, isn't it?
2023 is a big year for us with regards to Corvettes.
Yeah.
Because although the first Corvette came out in 53, it was actually manufactured in late 52. Only made 300. It was a disaster, actually. It was a piece of old crap.
What was the old blue flame?
Yeah. It might have had 2 carbs. I think it could have had 20 carbs. It wouldn't have made any difference. But no, so myself and my 2 sons are putting on via MSV, who pretty much own all the tracks, Jonathan Palmer. We're putting on at Speedfest in June.
Yeah.
Unsilenced.
Ooh.
Unsilenced. Very difficult to do. A grid of C1, C2, 3, C3. So
Wow.
Corvettes. 53 up to 82.
Yeah.
All race cars. So we'll be racing on Saturday and Sunday. On the Saturday, we'll be doing a grid walk.
Yeah.
And then doing a Le Mans start, which is a bit of a dummy start.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I want to see people with balls and chains and Zimmer frames. I've actually got a pair of walking sticks, that crutches I'm going to use.
Yeah.
If I make it. But anyway, and then we're doing Alton Park,
Yeah.
which is the automotive show, which we did this year. Fantastic.
That's in August, isn't it?
That's in August.
Yeah.
And I've just signed up to do the Silverstone Festival,
Ooh.
which is the Silverstone Classic. They've renamed it.
Okay.
So we'll be racing there. And we'll have a grid of Corvettes racing with Lolas, McLarens.
What, Can-Am style cars?
Pretty much. And Chevrons, 2 litre stuff.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, all unsilenced is this, or is it just
all 3 meetings are unsilenced.
How did you swing that?
Well, the point is, right, so everything is done on a financial basis.
Yeah.
So the good thing is, we were trying to do the Alton Park for American cars for 8-9 years. The problem is that MSV didn't recognise the fact until this year that there are plenty of American car owners and hot rodders in Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, Birmingham, Nottingham, everywhere. Doesn't matter where, everywhere. Anglesey, you name it. There are enthusiasts. They're not going to drive 150 miles each way and spend 150 quid each way on fuel. They're not going to do it. Take the circus or party to them.
And there's not a fat lot goes on in the Northwest, to be honest.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I go to swap meets. I used to go to one the NSI put on in Sheffield.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like it was a day out, but you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
North Wheel, we get up at 5, we're there at 7, we pack up at 2, and it's very much a social thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've given up trying to sell nice stuff. I just take crap with, because that's what everybody seems to want. But mind you saying that, what I describe as crap could be something really wanted by somebody else.
One man's trash and all that.
Yeah. It's a family thing as well.
Yeah.
I see young kids coming along. I don't know what's going to happen going forward.
But yeah, I mean the whole Bernie's V8s thing for 2023 sounds particularly
Oh,
exciting.
it's fantastic. We have 6 other rounds.
Yeah,
So we start off in April at Silverstone,
yeah,
which is a good meeting. We then do Cadwell Park, which we've not done before.
right, okay.
In where's Cadwell Park? Grimsby Way, I think, it's on the right.
Yeah,
East.
yeah,
No disrespect to people who live down there, but we're going to do that. That's a 2-day meeting. Then we've got Speedfest in June, another 2-day
which
meeting.
is the 10th anniversary of that
Yeah,
event.
10th
Yeah,
anniversary. I mean, I remember the first time we did it. Myself and a guy called David Scott, who was a director there, since retired. He said, "You know, I like what you're doing with the V8s." He said, "Do you think we could do something like for a weekend content?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" I said, "We'll support it. Get legends along. Get some pickup trucks along, and this and because nobody's doing it." And it is pretty much a static show, but it's mobbed, and it was mobbed the first time.
Well, when that first occurred, I was working at American Car Magazine, and I believe it was an American lad at MSV who sort of threw the idea out there.
Oh, I don't know. I can't.
And yeah, and I only heard about it through the grapevine. I phoned him up. Said, "That's a bloody great idea.
Yeah.
You ought to crack on." And he said, "Yeah, all right then." And that first year, apparently, it was the most popular event that Brands actually had all year.
They had more spectators in one day because it's mainly a Sunday, but it's now Saturday. A lot of
Yeah,
people do it 2 days. They had more spectators than all the other races, including DTM that used to come over from Europe. Not as much as touring cars, because touring cars you get free tickets.
Right.
You know, it's all corporate, and of course super bikes.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, I used to go and watch super bikes or motorcycle race. It was £1 to get in
Wow.
because the son used to do it. £1
Oh,
voucher.
yeah, yeah.
You know, but we need to keep these things going. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm trying very hard. I do 3 personally with a friend of mine, Dave. We do 3 classic hot rod American car meetings locally, all for charity.
Right.
So this year we did charity for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, yeah.
We did a charity for can't remember, cancer.
Yeah.
But the one that's very dear to my heart is called CALM, CALM,
Yeah.
which is Campaign Against Living Miserably.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit funny, but actually it's for young people who commit suicide.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we try and raise money for that. And we do raise money for that with racing as well. But I only do homegrown charities.
Right.
I'm not fussed about donkeys in Tunisia. You know, it doesn't float my boat.
Right. And you say you do this, you raise money at the race meets and at local.
Yeah, well, not so much at race meetings. What we do at race meetings is if we've made a bit of money, we'll give 500, 700, whatever it is, to the charity.
Yeah.
You know, life is not all about making money. Life is about having a good time, paying your bills, and just being liked. You know, if people like
It's a
you,
fine philosophy, that.
well, it is. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. They're so motivated by making money, they're missing the boat. They're missing what life's all about. You know, and yeah, everybody needs to make money and pay bills. And I've got a policy in life, and you know, I work with various hot rodding companies, do a bit of race stuff for me. Everybody's entitled to earn a living,
Yeah.
but not take the mickey too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. I've got to ask about the Bernie's V8 series. How long has it been called Bernie's V8?
Well, about 12, 15 years we've been going.
Yeah.
So it was called Bernie's V8. Then we had a committee.
Yeah.
And it was called Bernie's V8 as well then. Then the committee decided to change the name. They wanted to get rid of the name Bernie's. They thought it was a bit old-fashioned. and call it something else. And of course, most of the drivers said, "Hold on a second, he started it. Everybody knows Bernie. You know, you can't walk around the paddock without having a conversation." In fact, at race meeting, if I have to go to the toilet and it's 100 yards away, it can take me an hour and a half because I just don't. Everybody wants to talk, and it's
Yeah.
great. So, but we changed it when we moved over to MSVs, called it Bernie's V8s and Historic Outlaws.
Yeah.
So people ask, "What's a historic outlaw?" I said, "Well, it's anything as long as you're a nice guy and you're happy to have a bit of fun. We don't care. It can be a 6-cylinder, a 12-cylinder. Who cares?"
Well, but it's the really really thin rule book that really appealed to me.
Well,
about
yeah,
Bernie.
we don't allow slicks.
Yeah.
There are other series for slicks. I don't really like to see a big wing on a car. You know, there are a few cars out there, they think putting a massive modern wing on makes a lot of difference. Believe you me, it doesn't. I've proved the point.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't. Okay. There are bricks going through airs. That wing at the back might push the back down, but it pushes the front up. And they look a bit, they just don't look historical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the most important rule we have is no whingers and moaners. You know, if this guy's running a 5-speed and you're running a 4-speed, who cares?
Quite right.
If he's running fiberglass fenders, wings, and you're not, who cares? We have rules, and the rules are, number one rule, you've got to be the type of guy or woman to have a good time.
Yeah.
To be liked, to be in the paddock. We do have the occasion where we'll have a problem with a car's had an accident. Shit happens.
Yeah.
You know, that's racing for you. Everybody understands it. We have the friendliest series going. Everybody helps everybody out. We'll jump on a car, give whatever spares we've got. We don't ask for money. We want you out.
Yeah.
And we do Friday or Saturday night. For doing a 2-day meeting on the Saturday, we'll do Saturday night food festival.
Right.
My two sons are both amateur cooks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And we have salads and pulled beef and burgers, but nice burgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, not Cumberland sausages, not rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the Alton Park meeting, which was a Saturday only meeting, we set up Friday. We had a massive food festival. If you want to bring drinks, it's entirely up to you. I can't be seen to be giving drinks away, alcoholic, before a meeting.
Yeah,
Most people don't. They'll bring non-alcoholic stuff. And we've got tea and coffee and cakes, Costco cakes going all day long. And we invite people. If somebody's, the thing about our series, we're very proactive with spectators because it costs money to go and watch. It's not free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you go along with your kid and your wife, and you know, I'm always saying, especially on the grid walks, I say to every driver, if a young kid is looking at your car, he likes it. Open the door, let him sit in there, take pictures.
Yeah.
They love it. Absolutely love it.
That's it.
It's great.
Yeah, and for it cost you nothing to do that, but that kid will remember that.
Well, it doesn't cost a lot to do it.
Yeah.
And we're talking to various promoters to help us out. We'd like to give goodie bags away at kids when they come through the gate.
Yeah.
They get a goodie bag. And what's going to be in the goodie? A few sweets, a poster maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does cost money. It doesn't cost a fortune. But we need to get the next generation along. We need people to come along. They come up to me and they go, "You know what? When I was 7, my father took me to a hot rod show or a race car meeting.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you race." In fact, the most famous thing was that about 38 years ago, when I started to race, the car had drum brakes. So you would slide it in and out of a corner, get it completely wickedly wild, typical stock car type, complete opposite lot. And this father comes up with his son I'll never forget this because my other sons were there as well. And he said, "Can I have your autograph?" I go, "Okay." He goes, "My dad thinks you're mad." That's the way he drove them.
Well,
It's a driving style.
fantastic. And you
I love
remembered
it.
it. And you remembered
Well,
that.
my sons always, they laugh about it when we talk about it. And we went to, my son did some work at a show in Manchester. You know the old Bellevue Hot Rod show?
Yeah, yeah.
So they had American Graffiti guy, I forget his name, the yellow, the guy, no, not the yellow coupe guy, the guy in another car, I forget his name. No, it was the guy in the graffiti.
What, Milner? Or,
Mill.
yeah, yeah.
But I can't remember his real name. That
Oh,
was
God.
his
Yeah, yeah.
car. Anyway, he did a show, and we went and helped set it up. And I remember walking with one of my sons, and we're just walking, and somebody's walking behind. He goes, "I think that's that old boy, Bernie. I thought he was dead." That made us laugh as well.
Well, I mean, I've got to take my hat off to the whole sort of inclusive policy of the racing. Not on this, you go to your race meet, hide in your Winnebago until it's time to race, and then off you go.
No,
If there's a good atmosphere around the pits.
no, we really, and we actually encourage people to come up, talk to us. You know, we've got teas and coffees, cakes. You know, we can't eat. We say, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And do you know what? You'll be surprised how many people remember that, and they actually come and watch you race. They won't travel miles, but if you're at the same track the same year,
Yeah.
they'll come and watch it, or the following year. "Do you remember me?" And I'll always say, "Yeah, I remember you." And we'll have a half an hour conversation. My son will come up and say, "You don't know who that was, do you?" I have absolutely no
Not a
idea.
clue. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You know, I don't like, I used to do a lot of FIA racing,
Yeah.
which is what I call knobby racing, because the guys who race are knobs. You can't talk to them. They're never around. They're in their Winnebagos, as you said before. They're just there to race. They couldn't care less. Nah, not us.
That doesn't seem like fun.
No. I'm gonna try. I try new things every year, come up with ideas. So my latest idea, it won't happen, but I'm gonna try, is to have passengers in cars when we race.
Wow. Oh,
Because how do you get somebody into racing? When you watch racing, don't matter what racing it is, it's not as quick as when you're actually sitting in the car.
of course.
Our Corvettes will do 0 to 60 in 4 point something if we get the traction. Some are quicker. Tuscans are quicker. Our car in America have done 158, 163 down back straight. But that's all very well because it's like going on the motorway. There's real no difference between 80 and 110 and 120 to 160 if you
Yeah.
can do it. There's no real difference. You're just sitting there praying nothing's going to go wrong. But actually, when you sit in the car and then you've got to downshift and brake and upshift and watch your gauge and turn the steering wheel, I mean, you're never straight.
Yeah.
You're never straight when you're straight. So that's my next thing. And they're going to say no. And I'm going to go, "Well, how comes you can do it in rallying?" And then they'll be perplexed, won't they?
Yeah.
It is all a matter of insurance, I'm sure. But I'm sure it can be done. I can't see why not.
So you could raffle the passenger seats off for charity.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Now, talking about that,
Yeah.
I used to instruct many, many years ago. I did Brands Hatch a few times, but I was considered too old at that time because they like young people. But I instructed at Everyman, which was at Mallory Park. And they then decided to use my car, my old Corvette, and somebody else's car to take passenger rides out and charge them £5 a go,
Right.
whatever it was. So used to take the car up, and it was a good opportunity to run the car, test it if you've changed things.
Yeah.
Did it a few times, and I'll never forget. There was a woman got in the car, and I said, "Well, we'll go round, buckle up." I said, "Just please keep your hands in front of you. You'll be perfectly safe. Don't worry about it." She was screaming. She was grabbing the inside of my thigh. She spent 25 quid. 5 goes she had at it. Oh my God. And of course, you know, when you get in an old car, like Austin, Healey, MGs, you all get the same experience, and it's just wonderful. And drag racing's the same, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good fun sport.
That's it. Well, full marks for trying to get more people involved.
Well,
That's magnificent.
why not?
Absolutely. And hopefully I'll actually be able to get along to at least one round. Many years ago, I did follow the circuit round for a year. And I think this is back in the days when it may have still been ASCAR, it may have been HSCC. God, it
When
was late
Ascar was,
90s.
yeah, we've got about 2 or 3 Ascars that race with us,
Yeah.
and they're sort of well, they're the same chassis and everything as an Ascar, slightly different bodies and obviously different drivetrains. But they come out with them bloody quick, some of them, especially with an
Yeah. I mean,
S3 engine.
I'm not talking about the ones that are built for Rockingham. I'm
Yeah,
talking, yeah, like I say,
yeah,
mid 90s. This would have
yeah,
been maybe.
yeah,
But yeah, did see some terrific racing there, where you've got proper Shelbys on the grid and whatnot.
yeah.
Oh,
You know, we've done a tie up. It's just a friendly thing with the Corvette Club of UK.
yeah.
They come to our events. We say to them, we'll give you tickets to get in, put your cards where our cards are. Also, the other thing we're going to try and do next year, it's a bit difficult, but I think it's one of those things that can be done, is that some meetings where we're running the V8s, let's say we're running up Brands Hatch, is for people to meet, let's say, at South Mims on the
Cruise in.
M25 and get 150 cars going there just in a
Oh,
cruise.
that'll be lovely.
We aim at Speedfest 10 next year to fill the whole South Bank
Yeah.
with Corvettes, right? When we go to Alton Park, I mean, I would love, and see, this is one of the things, I've got loads of ideas, but getting councils and things to help you and the police is just a complete waste of time. In America, I've been fortunate enough to race there for 20 odd years. When you go to Watkins Glen
Yeah.
and you do that historic meeting, I think it's Labor Day,
Yeah.
end of August, they take 250 cars into the town centre. And then they let you run the old. Oh, we got a bit more?
Oh, yeah, please.
They let you run this old 7 mile course.
Wow, 7 miles, Watkins Glen.
Well, it used to be. It used to run,
Yeah.
not so much the track, it used to run all around the country.
Yeah.
Because you're told to keep up with the guy in front. So if the guy in front's doing 140, you've got to keep up with him. It's unbelievable. It's the nuts. And then you get people sitting outside their houses. It's only an hour once a year in their deck chairs with their bib and braces, with beer and everything, going faster, faster. It's unbelievable.
Fantastic. Oh,
They do it there. They do it at Lime Rock as well,
Yeah, yeah.
Connecticut. That's a bit of fun. Then you go into the local town. You just can't get people excited here to do anything like that. It's such a shame.
Is the problem that it doesn't happen, ergo people don't get excited about
Well,
it?
first of all, I think there's not that many
Chicken and
people
eggs, isn't it?
who will try and do it.
Yeah.
I'll spend as much time as if the local town said we want to do it, we'll do it. And you know, in places like Watkins Glen, they do it at Sebring at the 12-hour meeting. I've done that a few times. I think Road America, they do it. It actually brings a bit of business into the local town. People spend money in the shops and in the cafes, and it's a marvellous party atmosphere.
Well, I mean, look at the Woodward Avenue Dream Cruise.
Yeah.
They seem far more receptive to that over in the States than we ever will. Bloody Old Town Kissimmee thing.
Yeah.
I've
done that a few times.
They make it an event.
Yeah.
A car-based event.
Yeah.
They don't see cars as a nuisance.
You've got to remember in the whole world, Americans are the proper petrol heads of the world. You know, they have delegations, they have committees, they have very prominent people. You've got people like Jay Leno flying the flag.
Yeah.
For anything that's got wheels on it. You've got TV programs over there. What you've got over here is is dormant.
Yeah.
There's nobody really doing anything apart from doing the opposite of what you want, which is banishing it.
Well, exactly. It's a nuisance. You're not
Spain,
celebrating car culture. You're trying to kill the planet.
yeah, exactly.
That's
And that's a load of old cobblers anyway.
oh, again.
And I
Don't
don't
lean on
want
that door.
to
It's not
talk
like
about what's the point.
yeah.
95% of people in inner London said no to Genghis Khan taking it out to the M20. 95%. It's a fact.
Yeah.
He's still doing it.
But that's it. You're villains with your pollution belching cars. Not welcome anywhere.
No. I mean, people in classic cars, they don't even do 1,000 miles a year. People in hot rods, majority, don't do 1,000 miles a year. I mean, there's more cows out there farting and putting methane in, So what are you going to do about them? Well, you can't because we need them. We've got to eat them.
Well, yeah, that's it. I say plumb them up to some sort of receiver.
Come out with a reusable, that's a good idea, isn't it? Put a nappy on.
Yeah.
So the methane can be collected.
Or some sort of balloon. Yeah.
Maybe you're as mad as me.
Well, this is it. You see, I could be really wealthy off of this, couldn't I?
No,
unlikely. So there we go. We've actually come up with a solution to global warming and talked a lot about cars.
Yeah. I'm so pleased that you're making the effort, and I'll be happy to help in any way I can. I mean, it is what it is, but we all need to do something to keep this hobby going. Otherwise, life is going to be very boring.
Isn't it just? Yes.
Yeah.
And tooling around in our Teslas and whatnot.
No, you'll never see my son's bought. Oh no, or it's leasing. Let me just turn this off.
Yep.
I need to ring you back in 2 minutes. Thanks. My son bought an Audi, or leased it. I think he's leased it for 3 years. It's a big old thing because he goes into the West End.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's a good thing to do because parking and charges. He went to Exeter the other day to see a customer. He charged it up the night before, full charge. He did 140 mile of a 190 mile trip and realised I need to recharge it.
Yeah.
He had to find somewhere to recharge it. He goes on his app. Oh yes, go to this place. He did another 5 miles going to somebody's house, not a service area. So then he charged it. And then he came home and he had to charge it another twice. He can't put the heater on, so he puts a blanket over it. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm anti it anyway.
Yes. I kind of got
I'll never own one.
No, I can't say I'm in a hurry to do so.
Yeah. I can't. I'm not in the. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. I am different, but I'm only as different as all the other hobbyists out there.
Yeah. Yes, you're not a voice in the wilderness in that regard, as he said.
I've got 6 grandchildren. The oldest one is coming up for 12. Very difficult to have a conversation because they're on the computers, the laptops, the iPeg this, the I think I don't know. I give up. It's sad in my opinion.
We've got more methods of communication available to us than ever before, but we've forgotten how to speak to each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and this is why, best things I do all year are go to car shows and races and stand around and yap to my mates. Sitting around the campfire talking bollocks.
Well, the next one, I suppose, is the Essex Northfield in March.
Yeah.
And, we're all looking forward to it. But this time I'm taking a generator with.
Yeah.
And a kettle. And one of those things. And we'll just sit there and drink and eat all day. And freeze, probably. Might take a heater with as well.
That sounds like a fantastic idea.
Yeah, all good.
Certainly like the idea of the kettle. Bloody good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But won't charge for tea. Bring your own mugs with. But yeah, good.
Right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this. However, I think Yeah, I think we're just about finished on this
Good.
bloody telephone thing. So thank you ever so much, Bernie Chodosh. And
Thank
hopefully
you.
we'll see you in 2023.
If I'm alive, I'll be there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.